Hey guys, can you see my screen and hear me?
Yes, you're rocking it.
Okay, perfect. So like Nelson and Karen said, this is Captech, Marisa Gattis and Travis. We're here to present Visualizing Madness, which is a project that we've been working on for the past year and some change, all around the March Madness tournament. Thankfully, we had 2019 actually happen, so we have some data to work with. We were hoping that we would be in day one or day two of this year's tournament, but unfortunately it got canceled. So we're just gonna reminisce and enjoy the sports that we can via this presentation. So I hope you guys enjoy. We're excited to share. So today we're going to, first kick off and introduce ourselves. I'm sure a few of you are familiar with Travis. He has been to a few ATUGs before. This is my first ATUG, so I'm very new. We're going to give some background into why we chose a project around March Madness, dive into the data pipeline, how did we build the data to get to our dashboards. We're going to do the fun part, which is demoing the dashboards, a few of our dashboards that we built out for the tournament, and go in a little deeper into one particular aspect of one of our dashboards, which is the score ticker, and explain how we built that particular functionality. And then lastly, we're going to ask the question, how is this relevant, and answer it for you guys, and then open it up for any questions that you guys might have. So to kick it off, like they said, my name is Marisa Gattis. I am a consultant with Captech in the data and analytics realm practice area. I am just a year out of college. I went to Georgia Tech. So this is my first full-time gig, and I've been really enjoying it. I really love consulting. And I was first introduced to Tableau back in 2017 in an internship, and I got to do some self-teaching of the basics, but the project that I'm on now within Captech has really, not the March Madness one, but my client project, I've really gotten to build out a lot more tips and tricks and learn all of the meat that comes with Tableau. So it's been a whirlwind in the past 3 years to build up to this point. And I've become really passionate about telling stories with data. And for fun facts, my favorite teams are Georgia Tech because it's my alma mater, and Arkansas because it's the rest of my family's alma mater. So, and thankfully, back in 1994, they claimed the national championship. So I'll claim that one. And then Travis, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Marisa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Travis Harple here, manager at Captech in the data analytics space. So I've been doing all things data for 10 plus years now since I graduated college. Got introduced to Tableau back in 2014 with the organization I was working with, and almost exclusively worked in it for most of my projects since then. My favorite teams are my two alma maters, Georgia Southern and Auburn. Auburn's also a family school, so even if I didn't graduate there, I was going to be a fan. The pedigree for my schools is not as impressive as Marissa's. So we only have 13 combined appearances with one Final Four, which is last year. But we're going to hold hope for 2021.
Nice. So of course, we want to share with you guys what is Captech. You may or may not be familiar with Captech. We're a little bit smaller in terms of consulting firms. But really what we do is technology and management consulting. We have about 1,100 consultants across 8 different offices. You can see here in this pretty little yellow United States. So, we are primarily on the East Coast now, but we're hoping to spread our wings over towards the West Coast as time progresses. We do primarily project-based work and in a local-based model. And what I mean by that is we primarily work with clients that are close in proximity to our offices, so as to allow us to be more present with the clients on a day-to-day basis, but also to be present with our families at home. So having that work-life balance is really great, and not spending the time being in a hotel or on a plane. So it's really nice having that model. So, obviously client work comes first with for us at Captech, but as a nature of consulting, our product is ourselves and our own skills. So in order to grow our skills and to make better products that we can sell, Captech gives us a lot of freedom to take on initiatives, there we go, initiatives and internal projects to build and to grow and to learn. And that's where this project really sprung from. So why did we choose March Madness? I mean, first of all, who doesn't love college sports? I know I particularly prefer college sports over professional sports. It's just a lot more easy to get passionate and enthusiastic about a sport when it's somewhere that I went, and I can really cheer on people that I might have even gone to school with. So something really fun and exciting. It's also a very short-term tournament. We could have chosen a sport that, walked through the entire season, but that would have taken a long time. It would have had a lot of data. So we wanted to kind of shrink down the time span that we were looking at. Also with March Madness, there's a lot of easy access live data that's available. So that was really nice for us. We didn't have to go hunt down some data and sign up for random things to get access to things. So, and lastly, we wanted to make it a fun thing for our office. We actually made an office tournament, which is what these dashboards were used for, is in our office tournament. So we came into this project, it was Travis and myself, as well as we had a few different management consultants, a couple other data and analytics consultants, and we all got together and we kind of built these requirements for ourselves. We, first off, really wanted to make use of the live data that was accessible to us. We wanted to build out dashboards that, if not real time, they were near real time. Second, we wanted a unique experience for the consumers. So, we could have just had everyone in the office who wanted to participate go log on to whatever NCAA and, make a bracket and just use whatever graphics that they had built out for the UI. But we wanted to make our own. We wanted to make it unique for our office and hone the dashboards more around the participants rather than around the teams and the schools, because we thought that would be a little bit more fun for the people that were participating. And then lastly, we wanted it accessible to everyone, both that was participating in our tournament and then later on for things like this, so that we could publish it somewhere, somebody could pull down our dashboards, look at our logic, and maybe utilize it for some work that they were doing. So we, in order to do this, we have utilized Tableau Public, and we've published all of our work up there so that at any point in the tournament, any of our participants could log into, or they really have to log in. They can just access Tableau Public and look at all the dashboards, see where they stand, and that was really fun for everyone. So now we're gonna get into the data, and I'm gonna pass it off to Travis for this.
Yeah, so before we dive into the dashboards, we wanted to take just a couple of minutes to talk about how we set up the data pipeline and some of the interesting challenges that solved, because we couldn't really build a cool dashboard without getting that data from somewhere. So the first requirement was the one that kind of posed some interesting challenges, and that's that near real-time data. We knew we wanted to use Tableau Public. So we needed, the only way to refresh data in Tableau Public is if you're using Google Sheets as your data source. So that kind of made that choice easy. We had to use Google Sheets. And now the interesting piece was, how do we get the data from wherever we're scraping it from the web, into Google Sheets, and then refreshed when we want it to? And there was a few paths we explored. The first was, there's a function within Google Sheets called import HTML. And really what that allows you to do is plug in a URL and then search that URL for a table or list, and then import that list into your worksheet. The issue that we ran into here is when you're trying to pull in a lot of data. So if we have, I think, 63 games across these 18 days or something like that, it really slows down the computation for running these calculations. So it doesn't refresh quickly, and Google Sheets kind of lags trying to handle those functions. So we pivoted and decided to go with Python. And so with the beautiful soup library, we're able to go and scrape the data real time from the web, and then load that data into the Google Sheet that was used as the backend for Tableau. And that was much quicker. We didn't have the issue with the formulas in Google Sheets, and it was close to as real time as we could get. So here's how the data pipeline is currently set up. We're scraping the data from ncaa.com, and our Python scripts are sitting on EC2 today. When we first set this up last year, we had it running on a Raspberry Pi that was plugged into the office, and there was a few cron jobs that would just every 10 minutes go and grab the data and load it into the Google Sheet. This year we decided to go and push that up to EC2. Unfortunately, we're not able to run it just because there's no tournament, but hey, we at least tried it. The other interesting thing is when you're using Google Sheets, Tableau Public will automatically refresh your data, but it only does it once every 24 hours, which was a problem because we wanted to be able to update these dashboards as close to live as we could. So to solve for that, we set up a separate Python script that utilized the Selenium package. And what that does is essentially, if you were to watch it on your screen, it would go to open Chrome, type in the URL, and then click the refresh button. And so we have that running on EC2 in a headless state where it doesn't actually have to open Chrome and run it. It does it in the background.
Sweet. So now we want to do the fun part, and we want to demo some of the dashboards that we had built out, both from last year and a few that we had built in anticipation of this year for the tournament. So I'm going to exit out of this and go to my browser. Let's see. All right, can everyone see the browser screen? I'm gonna take that as a yes. Okay, sweet. So we built out, I don't know, maybe 7 to 10 different dashboards that, like Travis said, when we had plugged into our TVs in our office, the Raspberry Pi would periodically shuffle through them and show a different one for, I don't know, like a minute or so. And then you could also access all of these dashboards within our Tableau public account. So I'm just we picked out a few that we wanted to highlight and walk through. This is the first one, and this is one that highlights the office picks for today's game. But before I get into that section of the dashboard, I wanted to explain the skeleton that's built around it. So I built this this banner as well as the top 5 and the scoreboard over here to the right. I built that as a skeleton that most of the dashboards from last year sat on top of. And the only thing that really changed dashboard to dashboard was this visualization here in the bottom left corner. And I got some inspiration from, you know, like Sports Center applications and tried to get that sports vibe, but I wanted to make it unique. And with that, we have here at the very top a last updated little text box here, and this shows what Travis was talking to, where that cron job would go in and refresh it every, I think it was 10 minutes. So this would allow our consumers to see when the dashboards were last refreshed, because we were trying to keep it as near to real time as we could. And then I really wanted to make it as visually appealing as possible and highlight the participants as well as I could. So we tried to utilize Tableau's custom shapes and custom colors. And in this case, we took all of the participants' headshots and put them in, and anytime they got to land in the top 5, they got to be on, you know, the top center of our dashboards in the office, which was fun for them. It shows both their headshot as well as how many points they are from the leader. So, you know, can they catch up? And then of course, everyone else could look up here on the side in the scoreboard where they fell in terms of rank, their points, and then their accuracy. So, you know, how well are they picking the teams in the tournament. For this particular visualization, I wanted to show the breakdown of how the office picked for each particular game in that day's date. So obviously this is not today because today there's no game. So I actually went and hard coded in just a random date from last year. I think it's the first game from Elite 8. But last year when it was live, I had utilized Tableau's today's date function as the filter for this visualization. And then I brought the game identification. So where it says game 1, I brought that into detail so that you could see all the different games that happened on that particular date. And then in each of these lines, you'll see in a stacked bar chart format the team, as well as the percent of the office that had picked that team to win that game. So,
Marisa.
Yep.
Sorry, do you mind if I ask you one question?
Yeah, go for it.
It looks like we got a question about the extract. You'd mentioned the extract can be refreshed directly from the dashboard itself. And we just had someone asking, like, can you show how that happens?
Yeah, so I think what Travis was referring to was that we built out a cron job that would literally go in and not on our, it wasn't anyone physically doing this. It would go in and click the request update button, and then we would be put in a queue, and Tableau would then, in due time, it usually took about a minute, and it would refresh all of our data that was pulled in from the Python scripts that Travis walked through. And Travis, correct me if any of that was wrong.
No, you nailed it. That's it.
Does that answer the question?
It does.
That is yes. Okay, perfect. So yeah, and you'll notice here at the left, or to the right, I have losers in gray. And what is meant by that was that in the beginning of the tournament, obviously every team is playing. So in the beginning of the tournament, for the most part, you would only have 2 teams that were broken out here. But as the tournament progressed, you know, when you get into the Elite 8 round, there was a possibility that 4 different teams could have been playing that particular game. But obviously, when it comes down to it, only 2 are going to play, and the rest are considered losers because they're out of the tournament. And so this was interesting because clearly, at least for this game 4, so many of our office had picked those other contenders for that game that had eventually got knocked out of the tournament. So it was an interesting thing to look at as the tournament progressed. So that was our first dashboard. Another one that we wanted to look at was the points breakdown by round. So this one has a similar skeleton as I pointed out before. But here I wanted to show in a stacked bar chart the how each player was gaining points in terms of the rounds. And then so I have the rounds in the color, in the different colors so you can see. And I thought this was really interesting because, I mean, you know, you could see down here with Scott, like he did really awesome in the first 2 rounds, but clearly like did not make up for it in the end. Whereas Fabrice, who won the entire tournament, didn't do as well in the first round, but he really made up for it in later rounds. And then he actually picked, I think it was UVA that won last year. He picked UVA as the winner. So I thought this was interesting just to see how, like with time, it progressed and how like some people you could get such a minimal amount of points in one round, but still, really be able to make up for it in later rounds. I only had this filtered to the top 10 players because I thought it wasn't really necessary to show everybody, but I just thought it was interesting way to look at it. So that was one of them. And then the last one that I'm going to show is our mobile dashboard. So we knew that some people in our office would want to just be able to pull up the dashboard on their phone and just look at it really quickly. Where do they stand in relation to everyone else in the office? So we used Tableau's, they're like different device layouts to build. I think this one was really fit around the iPhone 8. A dashboard. It was much more simple, but we just wanted to highlight the most important things that people would want to look at on their phone. So this is really cool way to make it publicly accessible to everyone, even if they were on the train or out in the park or something. And then Travis, I think you wanted to go over the other two.
Yeah, I can do that. So this was one that we built new for this year. We kind of started off with like what's a March Madness tournament without a bracket. So we wanted to put a bracket into the dashboard, and the intent with the bracket was we wanted to have it update real time and show the scores of the games. Unfortunately, we couldn't do that today because there's no games happening, but we were able to plug in last year's data. And Marisa, if you hover over one of the points, you can actually see the scores of the two teams playing. So if this was real time, we would have real time scores, but unfortunately we don't. And then at the top, we just wanted to highlight some high level metrics, both about the tournament. So at this point in the tournament, all the teams, there's 64 teams. It lasted 18 days with 6 rounds. We get the total points scored across all of the rounds by each of the teams. And we wanted to show how did Captech do as an office. So we had 4 practice areas competing: management consulting, systems integration, DNA, and internal. The interesting thing, DNA, we were 3rd on the list when we should have probably been number 1. We could have built some models or something that predicted this, but next year. And then towards the bottom, we trying to stick to that theme of let's make something that kind of looks like SportsCenter or ESPN or something like that. And we used animations here to build something like a score ticker that would scroll through and show scores as they're updated. And so she plays that, it'll cycle through and show the scores of everybody that's participating in the office.
That is so cool.
So I think that's it for that one.
Do you want to show the bar chart race or?
Yeah, we can show the bar chart race as well. We also figured animations are now a thing, and you can use them in Tableau Public with the play button. So why not build a bar chart race to show that point breakdown, but to show it over the course of the tournament. So she clicks the play button, we'll see the scores update and the players shuffle in real time as it cycles through all the different games that have happened. And that's pretty much it for that one.
I think that was all the ones that we
I think that's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so what we wanted to do next was take some time, checking the clock here, to dive into how we built that score ticker so that maybe you could go and do that somewhere in your organization, or if you just want to go mess around with it and have fun. So there's a few things that needed to happen. One, organizing the data. To get the score ticker to work, we needed to get the data in a certain shape so that we could utilize the play button on the pages shelf for it to cycle through different points in that graph. The next was calculating the endpoint. And so every rank has a start point, and that's the current rank that that player's in, but we wanted to take the rank and then cycle it to an endpoint where it was on a different point on the chart. And lastly, animation, bringing the viz to life by using all of that combined in the page itself to play it on Tableau Public. And I think now I'll take over and we can walk through what this looks like. All right. So the first thing that we had to do was organize the data. And so what we had to do was we knew how many points in that graph we wanted. And so we needed to duplicate the lines by each of those points. And at the end, I'll explain why we had to do this. But in order to do that, all we did on the data sources was join our data set to a dummy data set that was just a number of 1 through 32, which we wanted 32 points. And that's this Tableau scroll bar data set. So if you scroll all the way to the end, you'll see that all we have is a key and then a point of 1 through 32 for every row in our data set. So the next thing was we needed to get a unique rank for every participant. And so to do that, we utilized the rank unique calculation along with a level of detail calculation on the player. And so the reason we needed to do this was the same reason why we duplicated that data set. So we duplicated it. We didn't want to just sum the total points. We needed to take the max per each player and then get the rank based on those two things. And interestingly, we have to take the max of that LOD for you to be able to use the rank unique. And the reason is, if you delete this, you'll see Tableau will not allow you to use a table calculation unless it's an aggregate calculation that's being plugged into the table calc. So because of this, we used max to get this calculation to work. So this gives us our ranking of each player. The next thing we wanted to do was get the X position. And that's where that player is going to live on that chart. And all we did here was take the rank and then subtract that point that we created, so that duplicated data source. And I added an extra 0.5 here to simply make it fit better on the chart. So the first thing we'll do is we'll take this X position and drag it onto the column shelf. And then we'll take player and add player to detail and text. I'll switch this to text so we can see it. And so you'll notice that everything gets bunched up here. So we'll need to change how our table calc is being calculated. And so we want to compute using each player. That way it cycles through and computes it per player instead of across all players at once. Well, in that case, it just bunched everything into one place. So then we'll add our points onto text as well. So we can see everything's here, but the formatting is a little weird because there's not enough space. So what we want to do is just fix this to a specific range. Let me change this point to the max. So now we can see the point and the max that everybody has, and I think I need to reverse this as well. And then what we want to do is take that point calculation and add it to the page itself. And then you can click play and it'll work like this. But there's a few other things we'd have to keep in mind. If I were to publish this to Tableau Public right now, we would not get the animations for a couple of reasons. First, animations are not turned on by default. So if you go to Format, Animations, you'll get this little pop-up window. There's a few options here. So you can turn them on by the entire workbook, or you can turn them on for a specific sheet. And you have a few things. So you can change the duration, and this is how fast that animation is gonna calculate. And then the style. So the style is either sequential or simultaneous. With sequential, you get the movement all at once, or you get the movement in stages. So it will calculate the new endpoint, shift, and then stop and sit for another second before it does the next one. If you get simultaneous, it'll just do all of the calculations at one time. The other thing we ran into was when we published it like this and tried to use the play button, we noticed the animations weren't working. And it ends up being that animations don't work with text marks. They have to be, there's a few things, they have to be a shape, a bar chart, and there's a few other ones that work, but text is not one of those. So to get around that, we simply changed it to a shape, and then just minimize the shape to where you couldn't see it, and change the transparency. So now there's a shape behind that, but you don't see it. And then if I were to publish this, you would get the full bar chart animation and actually get to see it cycle through the way you saw it on the dashboard.
Sweet, thanks, Travis. One last thing before we open up to questions, we wanted to shed light on like how we could bring this to our other work and to our clients, or to, you know, other fun projects that you might be working on. And some of the ideas that we thought of was first building out like an interactive org chart or a real-time process flow chart using the bracket that Travis demoed. And then using the score ticker that Travis just went through in building out a KPI ticker, you know, that goes through all important KPIs on a particular dashboard. So those were just a few ideas that we came up with. Obviously, there's a plethora, so be creative. And
Awesome,
Yeah,
y'all.
now we'll open it up for Q&A if you have any questions.
We do. So we got one in the chat window. It says, question, how was the skeleton set up in Tableau Public? I know that's basic, but I can't figure out how to save my life. So the skeleton. There we go.
wait, sorry, can you ask that again?
So they were asking about the skeleton. I guess maybe they're talking about the bracket. Or hold on.
Was it the bracket, or was it, I think maybe, Marissa, he's talking about the top five here and then the scoreboard across the side?
Yeah, I kind of labeled that as a skeleton. Is that what is being referenced?
I think so. appreciate
Okay.
if you give us more detail and make sure that we got the right thing. But let's assume so for a minute.
Yeah, sure. So really, I just built out a dashboard that included this top portion, the banner at the very top with the logos, the top 5, and then the scoreboard over to the right. And then I just duplicated the tabs, and then I was able to change out, with the tiled aspect of a Tableau dashboard, this bottom left visualization, so that it gave that consistent feel as we cycled through the visualizations in our office TVs. So you got the same look and feel, no matter what dashboard it was showing, you could still see that important information, but you got some cool new aspects each time that it cycled. Was there like a specific question?
I think you
No, I
got it,
think
but
you
there
got
is
it.
another one.
Well,
We
yeah,
have another.
one more thing on that dashboard. I think we built this and that skeleton before the sheet swapping option was a thing. And so now I think there's an ability where you could click on this, and then on the left-hand side, you'll just be able to swap the sheet into that instead of having to actually manually go do it. So Tableau's kind of thought of that now for us instead of having to redo it every time.
That's awesome. We've got one more. We've got a question about, in the scroll ticker demo, would you get the same result putting the player pill on the row shelf to split out the level of detail instead of putting it on the details, like on the marks?
For that, you would not. So if you were to put it on the row shelf, what's going to happen is you'll get a row for every single player. And that's not what we wanted. We just wanted to list the players across the chart. So you can't put it on the row shelf. It would have to be in detail and in text.
We
But
also,
I'll add to that too. One of the things as you get into the animation stuff and the racing charts and stuff like that, it's really tempting to kind of do the thing you normally think about, which is to put stuff on rows and columns. But as you end up having to put it in order to. And then one more question, Dr. Kevin Elder. Is asking about the
Allison, you're breaking up pretty bad, bud.
version of, he's saying that the one that's up there is take this year's.
Yeah, I think I got it. It was for the one on Tableau Public is last year's model.
Yes.
Yeah, this one is actually published up there as well. I think it's unhidden, but I can make sure that it's public, and we can send that link out with the deck.
Perfect. That's awesome. Any other questions for Travis and Marisa? All right, seeing none. Y'all really great stuff. Love seeing this. That scroll thing is really slick. So I know
I've never seen that. That was awesome.
Some jealous folks are gonna be stealing that idea really fast. Super excited. Really appreciate you guys coming on and walking us through this. Really awesome stuff. Virtual high five from us to you.
Yeah. Thanks everyone.